Hello, class. I put this short video together to try to help you with getting into OnlineGDB, the Python interpreter we'll be using this semester in CS 105. The online interpreter is going to be used to develop your Python code and to execute the code, and also share your code with me when there are assignments, lab activities, and programming assignments. So I put this video together to try to help you. My strong suggestion is that you use Google Chrome as your browser when you get to the tool. So we're going to start off by just go ahead and putting the URL for OnlineGDB into your web browser field, the address field. And when you enter the browser address, it's going to bring you to the OnlineGDB interpreter. Now, be patient because this is a shared resource, which is a web resource, and it's used by people really anywhere around the world. So their interpreter is going to be processing code from multiple people simultaneously. So it may take a little time to respond. So once you get to the OnlineGDB website, there's a couple things that you need to do in order to start developing your code. One of them is you have to log in. So I know that each of you created a user account using the OnlineGDB interpreter. So you'll go ahead and click on the left-hand side frame and click on Login. And it'll bring you to a login screen. I'm going to go ahead and put in my own credentials so that I can work through this process. And once you're logged in to the OnlineGDB interpreter, what you're going to get on the left-hand side is a confirmation that you're in your account. So when you log in, you'll want to make sure that it has a welcome message and your most likely your first name when you first set up your account. Okay? So the second thing that you want to do is make sure you're choosing the right programming language. Since we're programming in Python this semester for the programming unit, you want to tell the OnlineGDB interpreter that's the language you want to use. So when you click on the pull-down option in the upper right corner under language, you want to go ahead and choose Python 3. Now, when you do, the screen is going to shift, and actually, it's actually showing you a sample of Python code on the screen now. And we're going to get rid of it, but it does. Those are the two steps we need to get through before we can start developing our Python code. So a couple of things that I wanted to reinforce to you that we talked about in class. On the left side frame is are the functional features related to OnlineGDB, most of which we're really not going to use, but they are tools that are available to you if you have some dealings with Python code, if you have some questions. Learn Programming is an online resource that actually helps you with Python code, the syntax of the language, and how to use the individual functions. You can use this in conjunction with the Common Programming Syntax document that I posted to the class Moodle site. My projects will give you an opportunity to see all the projects that you have in terms of code development. These are some of the programs that I have in my account. These are loaded in the cloud folder that OnlineGDB offers. But we're going to be developing a brand new project. So once you click on Create New Project, if you were to go to My Projects, you're going to get a screen that looks similar to what we had before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select all of the information that's currently on the screen because I don't need it for our program. And I'm going to go ahead and click on, press the delete button. And you'll notice that you have a numerical serration of 1. And this is going to allow you to program your code and reference the lines of code in case you needed to speak with me or someone else related to the code development. If you're having a problem, you could reference, I'm having a problem at line 16, and it'll give a reference point for someone to review your code. So we're ready to start developing code. So what I did was I am going to paste into the editing window, which this is. So we have our functional features on the left-hand side. This main area in the center of the screen is referred to as the editor. And when we execute our code, the program is going to run in this lower portion of the screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, in the name of time, what I did was I actually developed the code that we used in class this past week for our first lab activity. Now, the code that you're seeing on your screen right now may not match up specifically with the variables that we have chosen for our class. I'm just putting together this short video using one of the sets of variables that we used in class, but the philosophy is the same, that you type in the individual lines of code and in the editor, which is in the top portion of the screen, and then we're going to execute it. Couple little pieces regarding the Python code syntax. If you look at the common programming syntax document that was posted on the class Moodle site, you'll notice that any line that's preceded with a hashtag or a pound sign is referred to as a comment. That's considered non-executable code. If you'll notice that at line 12, I have another comment, which is a block of pseudocode that actually helps me understand exactly what each block of code is going to do. So in line 12, I introduced the program purpose, and then in line 13, I actually code what's necessary to display the program purpose to the screen. White space is necessary because it actually helps you see the code easier rather than one big block of text. Notice that line 14, 19, 23, and 26 are blank. And if you look over the code, it's a little bit easier to see when you have that white space in place. Line 15 has another comment that says declare and initialize variables. Notice that 12, 15, 20, 24, and line 27 are the pseudocode that we developed for lab activity number 1. What follows under those lines is the actual Python, the formal programming language of Python to do those individual tasks. So for instance, line 13 is the functional code to display the program purpose. If you look at the common programming syntax document, you'll notice that the syntax to display information or send output to the screen is called print. It's a print function. You type in the word print, all lowercase, open, close parentheses, and what you want to appear on the screen is actually shown in quotation marks. Okay, at line 15, we have our declare and initialize variables. 16, 17, and 18 show how to initialize or declare and initialize variables. In this case, what we're doing is we're declaring and initializing variables to the value 0 to clear out the memory space. In line 20, we're we want the task or the pseudocode is to assign values to the variables for the first problem. In this particular example, I'm assigning first integer with 3, and I'm assigning second integer with 1. Line number 24 has pseudocode that says to calculate the sum of the first problem or the first problem values. And the variable that's going to be used to hold the sum is a variable called the sum. And that's going to be equal to the first integer plus the second integer. I think it's important to note that at line 25, that's the way you write equations. Variable to accept the data is on the left. The work to be done is on the right. So in this case, the variable, the sum, is going to be receiving the summation of the variable's first integer plus second integer. And then we finish at line 27, a piece of pseudocode that says output the sum of the first problem. That basically is going to output the summation of first integer plus second integer. And if you take a look at the common programming syntax document, you'll notice that in the third column of the document, if you look at the output function or the display function print, this is an example of how it could be written, where the words, the sum of first problem, actually it should say the sum of the first problem is. And when in the output function, when a block of text is surrounded by quotation marks, this is referred to as literal text. So everything inside the quotation marks, the sum of the problem is referred to as literal string or literal text because it's literally going to appear on the screen. The sum of the first problem is. And notice that there's a closed quotation mark, a comma, separating literal string or string data, which is a bunch of words or a word, from variable data. So in line 25, we added 3 plus 1. First integer has 3. Second integer has 1. We add those two together in the ALU. The ALU puts the response 4 in the variable called the sum. So when Python sees this variable sitting in an output function like print, it replaces whatever's in the sum, in this case 4, in place of the sum when the system executes the code. So now that our code is in place, the next thing that you would do, this represents only the first problem. So lines 20 through 28 are really the first problem. This is our first problem, 3 and 1. We're going to add those two numbers together and display an output. I'm going to go ahead and click on Run. I haven't saved anything yet, but I'm just going to run this code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Run, and it may take a few seconds to appear in the output. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this output window, and the way that you do that is you put your cursor in between the editor and the output window. And as you begin to move your mouse in between the two areas of the screen, you notice that the icon changes, and you can click and drag so you can get an output window that's a little bit larger. Now, there really isn't that much output here, but it does have an opportunity for you to be able to see the output screen a little bit more. So if you'll notice back at the source code, this is referred to as Python source code. This is what we develop in step 3 of the 5-step programming process. Notice that line 13 is the first executable line of code in this program. It says to output, this program will calculate the sum of two integer values, ... And that's exactly what we have here. It says this program will calculate the sum of two integer values, ... Okay, it's going to do exactly what you told it to do. So you have tremendous power in your output of in Python code when you're using the print function. The next thing is going to be executed is 16, 17, 18, but there is no output here. This is just going to functionally do something. It's going to assign the value 0 to first integer, assign the value 0 to second integer, and the value 0 to the sum. And while these are all being executed, it's not going to display anything. Even at line 25, when we calculate the summation of 3 plus 1, which is equal to 4, the system is holding the answer of these two values being added together in a memory location called, assigned, the sum. To get it out, we have to use another print function. And in this case, we're going to precede the value 4 with the words, the sum of the first problem is. And that's exactly what you see here. The sum of the first problem is 4. Now, in subsequent classes, I'm going to show you how to modify the output so it's a little bit more informative. But for the sake of this demonstration, I just wanted to show you how to use the OnlineGDB Interpreter. Now that we have it running and it seems to be working, we'll tweak the code to make it look a little bit nicer, again, in other classes. But at this point, what I want to do is I want to save my code. All right, so my code is obviously running. Even if you don't have time to finish it in one sitting, my suggestion is you follow these instructions so you know exactly what needs to be done. Okay, so at this point, what I want to do is I want to save. So if you take a look at the control bar here, you have your run. We're not going to be using every one of these features, but they do all have a purpose. So in order to execute your source code, this is called Python source code. This is the code that you generated, which is the Python equivalent of your pseudocode in step 2. What you see on the screen here represents step 3. Okay, so this is the run button, which means to execute the code that you've written. we've executed it, and you click on the run feature again. Notice that it's taking a little bit of time for it to appear. Be patient, please. I know that everyone is used to having it respond instantaneously, but when you're using a web resource, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Okay, so when you get those 2 green lines at the bottom, it means the program is completely executed. Now, I'm not suggesting that if you have to wait an hour, that there isn't something maybe fundamentally not right, but certainly waiting for 15 to 20 seconds is not considered out of the question. Okay, so once I have my program running and I want to save it, there is an icon 5 to the right. So we have the save icon, and when you click on save, it's going to ask you for a project name. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. Now, if I give you specific instructions on what to name the activity, you'll want to follow those instructions. But for this particular activity, I'm just going to put in a block of a particular name so you see and understand how to save a project. I call this CS105 lab activity number 1 sample. I'm going to go ahead and click on save. Now, when you do that, while it appears that nothing happened, 2 very important things happened. One is the code was actually saved to your cloud folder under your account in the OnlineGDB server. That's the reason why you want to make sure that when you first come into your code, it says welcome, and it's going to have your name here, because you want to make sure it's saving into your account. All right. The next thing that's going to be done under your welcome message is you're going to get a confirmation as to what the program project is. And once you save it, that name should appear. Okay. Now, if you were to click over to My Projects, and the system will update all the different projects that you have. If you notice at the very bottom of the screen, I have the project that I was working on. So you don't have to, but I would suggest that before you exit out of OnlineGDB, you check under My Projects to make sure that your code is there. So this way, when you come back, you don't have any surprises. All right. So that's really about it. One last thing I wanted to share with you. At some point, one of the tasks that you need to do is to send me the code. All right. So let me go back into my projects and open up the code we developed in this session. And once you click on it, it'll take a few seconds to populate, and here's the code that we generated. Okay, it's in full. Here's my comment block, which is going to be on the programming template document that I'll post on the class Moodle site, and tells you exactly what you should include in the comment block. This is all the code that we had written for this particular session. When you have a program that is complete and you're ready to submit the code for evaluation, if I say to you, as part of this project or lab activity, share with me a link to your code. Sharing a link to the code does not mean you come up to your address bar and click and paste, copy and paste this link here to me. What it means is, once you've saved your code, on the command bar, you're going to have a little choice or a link to the word share. And when you click on share, what you're going to get is a drop-down menu where it says share link. The first option where it says share code, this is what you want to share with me. So once you click on it and you have it highlighted, what you can do is you can choose copy. And then on the file submission portal, if this is what one of the requirements are to share a link to the code, when you see those instructions, you're going to copy this code and you're going to paste this code into the file submission portal that I set up for the lab activity or the programming assignment. Once you paste that link in, you've submitted your code. If there are any questions that you have regarding this process, I encourage you to watch the video again. If you have any additional questions beyond what the video is showing you, feel free to email me, and I'll do my best to answer the questions as quickly as possible. Okay? Have a wonderful day.